There's obviously some massive issues at Rangers at the moment. We're going to be unpacking some of them in this video. I'm not a Rangers supporter, but there's been a lot of content on YouTube over the last few days from actual Rangers fans who probably have a lot more passion for the club, obviously, than what I would do. I just like to look at things from a neutral standpoint. I think the people that know me and know this channel know that by now. I've covered Celtic enough. And I'm sure I will do as the season progresses. I don't feel like I need to do a video about sort of how good they've been. Everyone knows how good they've been, how unbeatable they have been domestically. But the same cannot be said for Rangers. There seems to be a real lack of fight in the squad. I'd recommend you go and watch CJ Novo's video on the semi-final from yesterday. He unpacks it brilliantly and basically talks through from an actual Rangers fan's perspective. So yeah, go check his video out. I think it's quite close to 60k subs as well. So go and drop him a sub. Before we get into my opinion on a few of the issues at Rangers and why the results haven't been so great, especially against Celtic. It's now over a year since they last beat them. They've not beat them at all this season, having played 5 Old Firm derbies currently this term alone. Let's look at what some of the Rangers fans said when Michael Beale was appointed in late November of 2022.
I kind of went with Dice initially because to be honest, I didn't think Mike Beale would be available, but I'm absolutely delighted that we've ended up getting Mike Beale. He's definitely first choice for me now.
So he was at QPR. He turned down Wolves as well, a Premier League team, which shows what he thinks of Rangers as a club, doesn't it?
Definitely, aye, absolutely. I think just for listening to his interviews, it's obvious that the club's really got under his skin. He obviously really thoroughly enjoyed his time last year, and I think it comes across as though he feels as though he's got a wee bit of unfinished business, which is all the better for us. It
does sound that way.
I'm excited.
And I listened to his recent interview that he did, I think on Sky Sports, and he spoke about maybe like players wanting to be here. Do you feel like there are players within the squad who are contracts are running out, heads are somewhere else, and do you think that he'll like ship them on and bring new players in?
I think there'll definitely be there'll be change within the squad. I think there has to be. Obviously, you've got to get the backing for the board. I think there are players obviously that are coming up to the end of their contract, but I think you're seeing that across a lot of clubs across the world just now. I think the kind of contract dynamics change slightly in world football. We'll just need to wait and see what the next sort of 6 months brings. Hopefully, I think there may be a few players that will kick on with having him there, maybe with a different style. I think if you're watching the training video on Rangers TV yesterday, it looked a lot kind of more intense. So certainly there was a lot to look forward to, I think, for what came out of that video.
It went a wee bit kind of flat, didn't it? After the Euro kind of final, but Scottish Cup and that kind of maybe kept him in a job for a wee bit longer, but it was definitely time for him to go, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, and so who were your top picks for manager?
That was my argument with all my pals, that if we're getting rid of him, I don't know, I didn't have him to come in. Mick Beale.
Initial thoughts, what do you reckon?
I don't know, I'm a wee bit underwhelmed. I think we're just maybe used to get Gerrard, Gio. Listen,
they're two big names. They've done a lot as players, whereas you've got somebody who's not played a lot now.
Everybody seems to see he's a brilliant coach, so he was the brains behind everything, so I'll wait and see.
Yeah, that's what people are saying, that he was the brains behind the 55 league-winning campaign. And would you have a message for him?
Good luck. You're going to need it with the players, I think. You might kick up the arse.
So yeah, some of the fans there touched on, I've got my notes here, like the new contracts of players. I still think that is a huge point. Like, I still think that Kent and Morelos, the fact that their contracts are actually running down to this point. You could have sold them after the Europa League final for 15 to 20 million pound each. Their stock was so high. I know Morelos was injured, wasn't he, actually, in the lead up to the Europa League, but his stock was so high at that time, as was Ryan Kent's too, with some great performances in Europe. But they've been allowed to let their contracts run down, and that's not just a bad thing financially. I think you can see it in their performances, especially these last few months of the season. Is it a psychological thing for players when their contracts are running up? They don't want to get injured because they might have a big move on the line. Do they not want to put as much effort in because of that? Or should they play harder to try and attract better clubs? I'm not sure, but I think the uncertainty around such key players really affects not only their performance, but the players around them too. It was a similar situation to Goldson, I think, around this time last year, wasn't it? He eventually signed a new contract, but 3 of the most key players of the last 2-3 years. Goldson, who when Rangers do have Goldson in, and we saw it at the weekend, the defence isn't always the best. And so when you take him out, that just shows how key he is. Morelos, main striker over the last 4, 5, 6 years. Ryan Kent, they spent a lot of money on him. And again, one of the main attacking players from that sort of successful era of winning the league and getting to the Europa League. 3 key players all at risk of going for free. Okay, Goldson signed a new deal eventually, but he could have gone for free. Morelos could still go for free. Kent could still go for free as well. So, yeah, I don't think that those things help the squad in general. And then one of the other fans, was that same fan, I think, actually said about training. The training, I think they saw a training video of Michael Beale and how he'd sort of picked that up and how it looked impressive. I take you back to the time when Ange Postecoglou first came in at Celtic, and the whole "we never stop" thing was sort of starting to take note in everybody's minds. Ange was saying "we don't stop," and you could see that again at the weekend. And every time Celtic play Rangers, I feel like they get to second balls more. I've been to those 2 games at Hampden this year. The second balls they get to, and how far away was Maeda? I'm sure I can put a clip on screen. And again, CJ Novo covered it better than what I could on his video. But yeah, I mean, just the way all the Rangers players stopped. I don't know if that comes from the manager or whether like the players should know that, but it seems like Ange Postecoglou at Celtic has drummed in this mentality into the Celtic players of never stopping throughout the 90 minutes, whereas I don't know if the same has been done for Rangers. I'm not sure. Like, you don't see what happens behind the scenes. You just see the squad for 90 minutes a week, or maybe 180 minutes a week if they play twice or whatever. But yeah, I mean, you don't see what goes on behind the scenes. Is that a player thing? Is that a manager thing? Is it a combination of the two? Let me know in the comments section below. I'm going to bring up Transfermarkt in a second, and we're going to look at the age of some of the players. I don't think that helps as well. Like, if you look at some of the age profile of some of the squad, but I just want to touch on, before we go into that, recruitment. I don't think has been as good as it should have been for Rangers, and especially, again, I know you have to draw comparisons with Celtic and Rangers because they're obviously the two that compete for the bigger trophies in Scotland. But if you look at Celtic, I know it was a masterstroke, really, wasn't it, for Ange to dip into the Japanese market. Nobody was going to do that before him, and now he's done it. I think it seems like such a masterstroke, really. But who was to know that Kyogo, Hatate, Maeda would be like absolute stars for them at this point? But fair play. I mean, the players they sign, you know, Hatate could be sold for 20 million. Kyogo as well. They've still got so much to give, but they signed them so cheaply. I feel like, yeah, the recruitment at Celtic's been great. Carter Vickers, Joe Hart, the players they've brought in, and I feel like, and I said this in the video recently, Ange, I feel like, knows his starting 11 at Celtic. If they had a cup final or a massive game coming up, you'd know the starting 11. Maybe you could swap an O'Reilly with a Moy, a midfield change, something like that. But the back four's pretty established. The goalkeeper, obviously, the front 3, and then the midfield 3, like I say, with the exception of maybe one, because you'd want McGregor and Hatate in there. But, I mean, if I got all the Rangers fans that are watching this video, and maybe you can do this, put your Rangers starting 11 in the comment section below. I bet they would vary massively. Where do you see Campbell as a winger, as a number 10, as a midfielder, and Raskin? Then do you play Lundstrom? What about Kamara? What about Ryan Jack? What about the back four? Who partners Goldson? There's been a lot of talk about Barisic. And then obviously the striker as well, Cholak or Morelos. Who'd you go for? And I don't think that Michael Beale knows his starting 11 quite like Postecoglou does at Celtic. Right, transfer market, let's get on here. So yeah, I find it so strange how the cup final last year, Rangers v Hearts, Alan McGregor got like a bit of a send-off, didn't he? He came on for a minute, and I know, I'm not sure if he'd actually played a minute in the cup last year, and maybe they were just giving him one so he got a medal. But it did feel like a send-off, and there was a lot of rumours about new keepers coming in. But I mean, you look at the keepers there, Robbie McCrory, jury's still out on him, obviously. He's still young for a goalkeeper, 25. But I know some people rate him really, really highly, but he's not been able to break through yet. John McLaughlin and Alan McGregor. John McLaughlin's 35, Alan McGregor 41. Yeah, I don't know if they're sort of good enough to be Rangers number ones anymore, especially the way the modern game is with playing out from the back. I'm just not sure. And again, let me know in the comments section below, but there's been a lot of talk over the last couple of years about Rangers signing a new goalkeeper, and I think that is a huge position that they need to strengthen in the summer. People are talking about, again, I've spoken about them in this video, Morelos and Kent, but the goalkeeper situation really needs sorting as well. Now, if we look at the defence, Goldson 30, Barisic 30. Okay, who else was I looking at here? Ben Davies 27, so he's sort of prime years, as is Goldson, I suppose, but they're hitting that 30 age mark now. Tav is 31. Yilmaz is 21, but he's seems to be injured a lot. King is 19. Suter 26, but injured a lot. Helander 30, injured a lot also. So I think you either have really young players, like your Yilmazes, like your Kings, like your, who else is in there? Devine, I suppose, has played a few minutes, but then you have like some sort of players who are maybe getting a little bit older now. Tavernier, and, like I said, Goldson, all hitting that 30 mark, which, you know, I don't think there's, especially in the back line, any players that are sort of in that peak or about to hit the peak. They're either they're a good few years away from hitting their peak, or they're maybe just past their peak now, I would say, for some of them. But that's not to say they're not fantastic players and that other players coming into that back line couldn't rejuvenate them and bring the best out of them. But I feel like they need a prime defender in there, or maybe two more prime defenders in there. Moving on to the midfield, again, a lot of injuries this year, which I don't think have helped. But like, where do you play all these players? I feel like Tillman's a great player, and again, something that's hanging over him. His loan spell will be coming to an end at the end of the season, obviously, and will they re-sign him permanently? But then you've got like Tillman, Hadji, Cantwell, all these players that are more sort of attack-minded, and then you've got your Arfields. Arfield's 31, Ryan Jack's 31, Lundstrom's 29, Kamara's 27, but I feel like he's been injured a lot this year. Stephen Davis, 38, he's obviously been injured as well this season. So I feel like, again, maybe in the midfield there's a lack of like prime aged players, but then you have like the players that are maybe slightly getting a bit too old for the midfield, maybe playing 2 minutes for their legs right now. You need someone, it sort of goes back to, it's sort of similar to Liverpool this year with Gini Wijnaldum. I feel like Gini Wijnaldum a couple of years ago was the legs in the midfield. Henderson was a lot younger as well. Now Liverpool's midfield are all sort of approaching 30. And you could say the same for a few of the Rangers players, but then obviously there's a lot of inexperience, and I think some of the younger ones are more like attack-minded midfielders. So again, I think they need a prime midfielder in there to sort of sort that out. And then you look sort of at the attacking players, and we've mentioned some of the issues with them. Your Kents and your Moreloses. Well, Matondo went missing for months in the season. Don't know if he was injured or whether he had issues off the pitch. Kemar Roof, I think a great player, but so sad that he just doesn't get the run of games because of his injury issues. Sakala, I mean, picture on screen right now, the miss is terrible. I feel like he's had a few of them this year, and I know he's a really nice lad and a good probably person to have around, but you have to be putting those chances away. And yeah, football is quite brutal. It's very people judging you all the time, obviously, but yeah, I mean, you just have to stick those chances away, don't you, in the big moments. Now let's look at the players that are out of contract. So there's 4, 5, 6, 7. So we got Ryan, Kent, Morelos. They're the two big ones that we've spoken about. There's Tillman, who's going to return back on loan unless they, obviously Rangers have the option to buy him. So that could change if they do buy him. Ryan Jack, and these are all the first team players that are out of contract. Halanda is still a first team player, worth, apparently according to this website, €3 million. Obviously been injured a lot, so that's 5. But he was a big part of the league winning campaign. Arfield 6, Stephen Davis 7. If Davis wasn't injured, he'd have been playing a bit. And he has played a bit this season. And then you've got McGregor, Kieran Wright. You can't say that he's sort of a first team player, but McGregor. That's 8 players who could easily start for Rangers that are out of contract or leaving because of their loan at the end of the season. 8 players, that's almost a whole team, isn't it? And yeah, again, when you consider some of the ageing players as well, I just don't think the squad management has been done well enough. And yeah, you can see it because they're still relying on a lot of the players that they were 2, 3, 4 years ago. And Gerrard even alluded to it in an interview when he was at Villa that he wasn't backed after the league-winning campaign. And you've had amazing players like Bassi go, Aribo go, Patterson go. How good would Patterson be? I know there's been a lot made about Tav and his like defensive sort of issues this season. As amazing as he's been going forward, obviously, we all know that. I still think he's one of the best defenders in the league. Obviously he is. He's the Rangers captain, he's a right back, and he's achieved a lot for the club. But I feel like, again, he's 31 years old. You need a young player underneath him who's hungry, who can push him to be his best, but also take a few minutes off of him so that he's not having to play as many minutes as he is. And I think that's a big issue with this Rangers squad. It's not been kept fresh enough with prime players coming in. Raskin's only 22, I believe, so you got all these really good talented youngsters, a few of these older players like McGregor 41 and all the other guys who I've mentioned who are approaching 30 and are hitting 30 now. There's not that middle ground, and it's great to have experienced players, it's great to have young players, but I feel like they got too many of each and not enough prime players in the middle, basically. Anyway, yeah, when I was at the game yesterday, I just like had the thought of doing this video of just like having a little look into some of the issues that Rangers are facing right now. Maybe I've missed some. Again, I'm not a Rangers supporter, it's just stuff that I can see through my untrained eye, I just thought like these things are sort of obvious things that Rangers could address and try to progress. I would love to see a more competitive league and more competitive cups. Celtic winning the treble. They were winning multiple trebles, obviously, when Rangers were sort of still trying to build their way back up from League Two. So yeah, it's funny to see them going back to win a treble again after obviously the success that Rangers have had in the last 2 years. I know the Rangers fans wouldn't find it funny, maybe that's the wrong word to use, but you know what I'm saying, they've gone back to win a treble when sort of I think it should be the big two pushing for trophies now. But yeah, just my opinion on a couple of things there. Let me know what you think. I've got so many opinions from people at the game yesterday between Celtic and Rangers in the Cup semi-final, from other like sports journalists and ex-pros. We even interviewed John Lundstrom at the end of the game, and or we were there in the press conference, and the same with Callum McGregor, and just the things they were saying. Like McGregor even said about Celtic's mentality and not stopping, and I don't know if that's been drummed into Rangers the same as it has across the city there. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I know a lot has been made of this lately, so yeah, just doing my video on it, giving you my thoughts on things. So yeah, let me know what you think about what's going on at Rangers currently and how things can change, and do you think that Rangers will again next season be able to progress and push Celtic for the title and maybe win a trophy again? It's a trophyless season right now. Will they get to the Champions League? Will they beat another team like PSV to get to the Champions League and then do poorly? Rangers fans, would you have rather have been in the Europa League this season? You might still be playing European football now if that was the case. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching. I will leave that Cup semi-final video. If you haven't seen that yet, do go and watch it. It was an absolutely cracking day at Hampden Park. Good atmosphere, spoke to loads of good people, like I've already mentioned. So do click on that. It's on screen right now. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.